Hello everyone. Thanks so much for joining me today. It's me, Carol, and as promised, here is part 2 of a broader view of 2024. So in this video, I am going to discuss how the year 2024, which equals to a number 8, and it is considered a universal year, meaning the universe is vibrating under a number 8. We're going to look at the energy and probabilities of this number. We're also going to look at the corresponding planets associated with the number 8 and what this time period is really trying to reveal to us and how we can best utilize this year's influence and energy. Then I will also give us or talk about some clues about that energy, that vibration. Through the tarot, I'm going to relate some of that with you. And I'm really hoping that you can identify this on a personal level as well as a collective level, that this energy and the information I'm going to be sharing with you today. So if I were to sum up the spiritual, and I'm emphasizing the spiritual aspect of the year 2024 as an 8 vibration, I would call it evolution. It is a time cycle of change on many levels and maybe severe changes on the world stage. So what is evolution and what does that mean? It means a lot of things. In a nutshell, what I think is important for us to understand is evolution means ever becoming. We are ever becoming as human beings. The world, the universe, everything is ever becoming, is ever changing. There is ruin, there is decay, there is death and transformation all around us. It is the phases of life's expression and experience. It's what we all go through, everything. And the fundamental order of evolution is the transformation, basically, simply of one form or cycle into next highest experience. Again, I emphasize highest because evolution does not happen otherwise. Now, we can think of it as that which has been sowed is completed, and that stands for universal consciousness, human consciousness, and what we are about to experience, the beginning of this year. And even though there is an ending, if you will, there is always an advancement of some sort or a next phase of some sort. Going back to the number 8, the ancients called it death. Okay, so let's take out this tarot card, death, number 13. And basically death has to happen in order for us to expand, grow, or change. And in the tarot, it doesn't mean physical death. It has to do with that transformation process that I've been alluding to here. There is a releasing of the past. Therefore, it is necessary at this juncture in our progress to also understand the symbolism having to do with what is in the 8th house astrologically. That is the Scorpio house, and it is the house of, it's called regeneration, it's called endings, as well as psychological rebirth. So when we get the death card, it's saying we may have to change some concepts about ourselves, about our lives, about others, about the world. So it's also the number 8 related to the planet, Pluto. And Pluto, which we will be discussing a little bit further in this video, is also about transformation, and it is a force each of us will be greatly affected because we just had transiting Pluto entering the sign of Aquarius, and it will be there for 20 years. So Pluto is the big planet for a long, long time. It's also one of the three transcendental planets, which basically mean it is generational because it is so slow moving, and it's sometimes 12 or 18, 20, up to 24 years, which it will stay in a sign. So many people born in that generation when Pluto was in that sign is aspected, is part of your chart. It's part of many people's charts. Okay, so what does all this mean for you personally? It is a time, I guess, to eagerly work towards self-awareness. I'm putting that here because that's another symbol of what the number 8 is all about. So there's self-awareness, and self-awareness is necessary to reach self-actualization. And what is self-actualization? What is self-awareness? It's all about the process of clearing, releasing, and balancing both sides of our nature. Giving up possibly defenses, attachments, and falsehoods. That's what this is going to be about for the year 2024. In essence, it is a self-purifying process which has to take place if we choose to work with the vibration of 2024 this year. Now, that's a lot easier said than done, and that's what I'm hoping to bring to light for you here today. So, as a number 8, it is also a number that is, now this again is the ancients that remind us that it is before we return to the unity of number 9. What is number 9? Number 9 is self-realization. And if we look at the tarot card, it is the hermit. He's become self-actualized in a way. And he is above and now brings light and wisdom to those who are finding their way to become self-actualized. So ultimately for all, we're going to go back to this strength year, which is the 8th card in the tarot. The number 8 is when one is able to control the beast within and taken its power, its force, to be used in service to the purpose, I'm going to say to the higher self, or I'm going to say to the soul, whichever resonates with you. This is what number 8 universal year has in store for you if you choose to accept the challenge. So as a collective, it is time to kind of manifest the highest ideas and visions for not only yourself, but for others. And I'm going to give you these to consider the process. And it's kind of the willingness to confront the barriers that we all live with on each day. And the fears, that's a major factor. For all of us, our own individual fears. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. And judgments, which always divide us on some level. So, what can we use as a motto and a prop for 2024? Strength. And we can also use the word justice. Now, for some of us, it will be finding the strength to continue a spiritual journey. And for others, it could be to find the strength to begin the journey for the first time. And the latter, or the reason possibly for this, is because some of you may have kind of hit a brick wall and may have been disillusioned, defeated, depressed, and finally surrendered, and you're going to say, I have to change my way, and you take on a spiritual journey of understanding the deeper meaning of your life purpose here this time around. Now, much of which happened for some of you during the chariot year, myself included. The chariot year was a tough one. I said goodbye to it, but that was also the impetus for the strength card to really force some of us to begin on that spiritual path. And from the standpoint of all this, many are seeking balance and equilibrium, what they lost during the chariot year, and really saying, what is true and what is permanent for me at this point in my life? So it really is represented by the Justice card in the tarot when we're looking for that balance, that equilibrium, what is true, what is false, what is just, not only for myself, but those closest to me. Now, throughout this discussion, I am going to be giving you information that I hope that really helps you understand the power in this universal year force. All right, now, and also before I begin, let me put this away and give you something else to kind of concentrate on. Now, in my studies, and I am going to have to go get, I just thought of something. Bear with me here a second. Okay, I got them. Now, in my studies on this spiritual journey, which I've been on many, many years, and no, I am not self-actualized yet, still working on it, the initiates warn us on the spiritual path the following, which isn't congruent with what has been discussed so far, what is happening so far, what the universe is trying to teach us, what your higher self is prompting you for. This is covered extensively, what I just went and got on the material of The Secret Doctrine, H.B. Blavatsky, and she is, of course, the author of this book, and she is also the founder of the Theosophical Society. Okay, so a lot of what I'm going to be telling you, especially this warning, is from their teachings. And the teachings of Madame Blavatsky and this book is a synthesis not only of philosophy, but it's science and religion. Now, where it is greatly specific about what I'm about to tell you is from the works of Alice Bailey. She has numerous books. She was a student, initiate of Madame Blavatsky. She took it over when she passed away, and it has to do with not only theosophy but occultism, and she writes extensively on what I'm going to share. And what is that? Well, at some point in one's evolutionary progress on the path, when it is said that they are at the point of, it's called crossing over, we meet what has been called the dweller on the threshold. That is exactly the writings, the dweller on the threshold, who will bar our way forward until strength, divine will, and purpose. Now, what am I describing here? Strength, divine will, and the divine will started incubating in the chariot year. And you have proven and earned your way to bypass the dweller on the threshold. I know right away you're saying, who's the dweller on the threshold? Each of us will confront on the path. It's the personality self. The process is really complicated for us to really get involved in here, but the core essence is ultimately our journey to self-actualization is a process of initiatory steps. The goal and reason for progressing is when we identify and control the personality self and identify it more with our soul, in which point we then decide, transform, and make the soul our identification over the personality. So it's flipping it around. This is what is meant by the integration of the two. And that concept is constantly repeated in the major arcana of the tarot. And the two, the ultimate prize when we begin and end with the World card, is when the two are now one. Now, a complete new identity is formed, and we need to distinguish in that process when we're meeting the personality self to understand when the ego is at work and when the higher self or soul is at work. With that, then the ability comes for us to overcome the promptings and insidious qualities of the ego. We know that the ego works overtime trying to maintain power, it's telling you it's protecting you. Don't do that. I'm protecting you. It's not going to work out. That's not good for you. Don't go there. So what are some of the examples that the dweller on the threshold uses to bar our passage? What some of us can confront, what I've confronted, what other people I know have confronted in the books that I've read, people that I spoke to. Well, one of the main one important one, and it's really important that we understand this, is material possession attachment. There is such a thing in psychology, believe it or not. Let me repeat it. It's called material possession attachment. And it doesn't mean that you're materialistic. That's only part of it. It's a multifaceted psychological need to have certain places, persons, things that you feel you couldn't go on without them. So you could see how multifaceted it is. It's not only material things, it could be people, it could be a job, it could be a title, it could be anything, but it is psychologically damaging to you. That's one thing. The other one is egotistical, or what they called egoic status. Those are power needs that are self-serving or detriment to yourself and to others. Now here lies the quality. This is where we really see and understand what do I want to say? The amount of courage, the amount of strength, the amount of conviction, determination, which the ancient says has to occur, has to emerge within you, just like the strength card, but from both the mind and the heart, the conscious and the unconscious, both sides of our nature. Now, pointing back or referring back to this year's cycle and tarot cards, we also find connections with the sign Leo, right? Because in tarot, strength card corresponds to the sign Leo. And Leo is ruled by the sun, and that is part of the number 8 energy. It is our life force. We need the sun. And Leo is all about individuality, who I am. And it also relates to the heart in the body, the physical aspect in astrology. The heart is the organ. And in French, the word cœur, which means heart, begins with courage, and it asks you to really look at the courage to have heart and conviction. So this card is so instrumental in the universal energy of the number 8. So now let's look at what the sun represents for you individually and for us in astrology. It is your inner self. It is your personality, and it's also your ego, which is played out by the sign that you are born under. That is your personality self. And the shadow works to purify those aspects of the self and is beautifully depicted in the tarot with card number 19, which is the Sun card. 1910-1, new beginnings, a new, transformed, evolutionary process where there is now that transformation where the old has died and the new person has emerged. We see that the beast is now a horse, much more easier to tame than a lion, and it is pure and white, and there is no hiding of who you are. You're naked, and you don't even need reins to hold the horse. In essence, key 19, the sun, is triumphant renewal. Now, I thought what might be interested, since we are talking about the sun signs, is to what I help myself and others that I counsel when we talk about, let me make sure you can see this on your monitor. When I talk about how to really understand your sun sign and what you may incorporate to help you balance and work with the shadow, is to look at the opposite signs. So here, what I'm giving you is the 12 zodiac signs and the opposing signs. So here, if you are an Aries, your motto is, I am. Your opposite sign, which is helping you balance some of the personality self, which could be self-defeating, is the sign Libra. I balance. And Libra, if that's your sun sign, then balancing parts of your personality, it could be I am, because Libra very quickly wants peace at all costs and sometimes gives away his or her power, loses balance with self. So they need to have more of that Aries I am energy. So let's go through the next one. Taurus, your motto is I have. Your opposite sign is Scorpio. I desire. So Taurus, you're learning from Scorpio. Scorpio, your opposite sign is Taurus. And you may look at what you have. And that's difficult for Scorpio because of that regeneration, dying to the old, starting again. Sometimes that is so fluid that they don't know what they actually possess sometimes, and they give away their power. Gemini, I think. Your opposite sign is Sagittarius. You can learn from them. Instead of thinking, understand it more fluidly. Get a grasp of it. You work what you have learned. Sagittarius, you can learn from Gemini instead of understanding and being maybe dogmatic and maybe a little proud of what you understand. Think in and out of the box, in another way. Renew your thinking. Push the envelope, if you will. Cancer, I feel. You can learn a lot from Capricorn. Stabilizing. I use. Being grounded. Capricorn, you may become more emotional or approachable in some ways by learning from Cancer, feeling, accepting. Leo, you can learn a great deal from Aquarius. Your mantra is I will, and Aquarius is I know. And Leos could now be more, instead of going from one thing to another, as that fiery energy brings them. The Aquarius airs may slow them down where they really understand a concept from beginning to end that they can share and teach. Aquarius, you can learn from Leo by being able to become more maybe outgoing, assertive, not so much staying in your own little shell of comfort, and also being more forceful in teaching what you know, getting out of your comfort zone, Aquarius. Virgo, I analyze, and you can learn from Pisces. I believe. Virgos can analyze, be quite discriminating, perfectionist. Pisces says, let go of all that. Believe, flow with it, enjoy it, relish in it. Don't worry about it. Pisces, you can find stability and deeper roots and understanding and further growth by taking on some of that Virgo analytical qualities and also stretching your limits. So I'm hoping, friends, that was something that you can use for that. Now let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about some of our aspects for the year number 8. I'm going to put, let's see. Oh, it doesn't matter. You know that, is it under here? I don't know where it went, but I'm going to be talking about the number 8 in numerology. On a very mundane level, not that it's not important, but the number 8 has to do with power, big business, authority, and banking. And those things, all those, let's say, accomplishments or powers are all contingent upon establishing and maintaining balance. Yeah? And here again, it's all between the mind, the intellect, and the emotional promptings of the heart. You're not going to be able to maintain it without maintaining the consistency of mind and heart, mind and emotion, intellect and feeling, not getting in the way or overbalancing one or the other of these concepts. I want to personalize it a little bit. Those who have a life path number 8 will find that in a universal year 8, here it is, in a universal year 8, there seems to be some kind of testing going on in this cycle. There could be great advancements equal to defeats or setbacks. Again, there's a balancing going on for those of you with the life path number 8. Often, the life path number 8 individual also feels the effects of karma in some way or another. And underlining all this is the forces of nature. And what I mean by that is not only are we all dealing with the personal changes of the vibrational universal year, but what the world, the universe is presenting to us and changing, and we're having to adapt or work with those things that are totally out of our control, but still we have to adjust to, regulate, and find common ground with. So all of that. Now for everyone, this 1 year time period may find us focusing on our interactions with others. Now, this could manifest for us by us becoming more observant of how and what we want for ourselves and we want from others. And I am seeing relationships changes a little more so far than I've had in the past. And I'm wondering if it's that observation or evaluation of what I want from others or what I feel is important that I get from others going forward. Also, how we're interacting with others. And we may find ourselves questioning our own actions and reactions. Why did I do that? Why was I triggered? All of those are excellent ways to get back, observe what is going on. We may sense a deeper emotional connection or disconnect. I'm finding also to where we work and what we identify ourselves as. That could be the label that we have in the workforce. And we may not choose that label anymore. We may not choose that line of work anymore. We may not identify with the concepts of what our work entails. And some of us will focus more on their lifestyles and where they reside, what country, the type of home. And all of this is going to impact a greater energy that I think is also bubbling up in the Universal Year 8 is our finances and our future security. And that could be having to do with our retirements, income, our government, our state, all of that. So it's, again, this is a very powerful, complex, universal year. Now, some questions, and I've got these for you as well. And let me stand up, make sure you can see this on your monitor. Okay, so these are questions that may help clarify your way through this. All right, is there a reason why my life feels or is out of balance? Am I willing to make the necessary changes needed to get things back in balance? And those are not easy questions, and those are not easy fixes. I understand that, but hopefully these can kind of trigger where you are on your evolutionary path and finding possibly the dweller on your path and what that is part of for you. The next question that you may be asking yourself is, where and when do I feel my energy draining? That's a big one and an important one, because that is also the impetus to make changes. Where and when do I feel energized and renewed? That's a good thing. I want to stay there a little longer. Have I judged myself or another wrongly, blinding me to better self-awareness and acceptance? What am I most afraid of or fear will happen to me? What stage do I need to take what steps do I need to take in order to find relief and ultimately releasing this from my consciousness? Because fear is so multifaceted and comes in many disguises. We can use it to delusion ourselves, to protect ourselves. So fear is a big one. Now, the astrological correspondence to number 8 are many. There's 3. Pythagoras scholars said number 8 relates to the planet Pluto. Now, if you followed me with the Pythagorean triangle and you put your date of birth in the triangle, number 8 would sit here. So this would be the number 8. And if you have a number 8 in your date of birth, this, again, the influence is a little bit stronger for you. So the number 8 in your date of birth will add greater influence for these things, and for security, business, finances, your status, your power. On the flip side of that, you want to look at where you find resistance, blockages within yourself and others for personal growth or acceptance, anger, hostility, and certainly fear. Now, going back to the birth chart, as a placement, as the Pythagorean triangle here, this is having nothing to do with the life lesson number, but if you have an 8 there, I think I would like to go a little further in explaining the emphasis of the energy. It is on the action line, so you want to take action this year, if at all possible. And with that action line, you also have the line of soul. So you have the action line and the line of soul. So really, your heart and head need to be together in the steps that you take to make any improvement or decisions that you feel you're being led to in the universal year 8. Now, I would also like to add that often those born with a life lesson 8 or life path number 8 often feel different in some way. It seems to be a perpetual balancing act for many of them. So I'm saying this because this year may be even harder for them, and the head and the heart doesn't always concur, doesn't always agree, and there's a give and take. So be advised that that's going to be probably a little more accentuated. Now, the other planet is the planet Saturn. We know that the 7th day of the week is called Saturday. So we have Pluto as a corresponding planet. We have Saturn as a corresponding planet. And as I said earlier, the Sun. And with all that said, I want you to also look at your rising sign of your sun sign in order to also understand where there are lessons for you to learn. The sun signs and rising signs that I personally believe will have a greater impact or more work to do is Leo, Scorpio, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, and Taurus. So, I also believe that because Pluto has moved into the sign of Aquarius and is going to be there for the next 20 years, that this is, in essence, the beginning of great change, on a revolutionary cycle. I like to use the word revolutionary when I see Pluto in Aquarius, and it's causing us to become aware of our own conscious kind of a revolution where our consciousness is giving us a harder time. It seems to be on our shoulders and tapping us and saying, are you sure you want to do this? Do you think this is the right way? There seems to be more of an awareness of right and wrong, justice, equality. We don't want division anymore. That is surfacing. And it's also, I believe, the universal year 2024 is a recurring interest in occult philosophy, and that is greatly driven by the need and the search for truth for ourselves and for the world. So that's going to end it there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Always ask any questions that may happen as you're listening to all this. I would love to read your comments and let me know what you feel about it. Again, thanks for your patience and sending love to each and every one of you. Bye for now.